Ryan Spaeder, as promised, joins us here on Big Board Sports, host of the Best Baseball Podcast, contributor to the Sporting News, author of the incredible baseball stats, the coolest, strangest stats and facts in baseball history. And he, too, is a Penn State alum. I love it. Penn Stater myself. Ryan, welcome to Big Board Sports.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Hey, Ryan. Appreciate a few minutes. And active duty U.S. Marine, of course, maybe topping it all. Ryan, we have been just swamped with calls here on our show this morning since word has leaked out that perhaps the Yankees are making a run at Manny Machado, the Orioles, at the trading deadline. What do you think about that?
I think it's inevitable that Machado is going to get moved. I was just talking about last night with a friend of mine. It's odd that he wants to play shortstop because he was such an elite third baseman, and obviously with the Yankees he'd be better fit moving at third because they got Didi playing short, and he's a pretty sound defensive shortstop. But Machado is not a very good defensive shortstop, whereas he was a great defensive third baseman. I think he's at minus 19 defensive runs saved.
Wow.
And if you can call it that at this point. And obviously brings that elite bat, but I think that somebody's got to get in his ear and talk to him, get him to be a third baseman, especially if they're going to trade him to the Yankees.
Which of the Yankees, he would be a third baseman. But do you think this is a good move by the Yankees? I mean, to me, Ryan, they need pitching. I think the hitting department is fine. I wouldn't mess with the chemistry of this team with Manny Machado.
Yeah, to be totally honest with you, I think the best move, and it's funny, I think this is the best move for my Phillies as well, for the Yankees, is to make a package deal with the Rangers and go and get Beltre and Hamels as opposed to Machado. You're gonna sell the farm to go and get Machado, and I think that in the case of the Phillies, they bring those two in, then they're able to push one of those young starters into the bullpen. But the Yankees, I think that you've been getting some good pitching out of Sabathia. Obviously, Severino's your Cy Young and probably going to be a perennial Cy Young candidate. Sonny Gray's been disappointing. Herman, I guess, is serviceable as a starter. But I think that there's no doubt that this starting rotation needs help, and I think Cole Hamels is the move. And if you look at Hamels' numbers, they're not all that impressive. But if you take away his starts that are just in Arlington, which is prone to the long ball, he actually has really good numbers over the last 3 years. So I really think that that's the move for the Yankees.
The link to the podcast, Best Baseball Pod, is right there in Ryan's Twitter profile, and he'll give you all the stats, the metrics that you typically won't find anywhere else. And Ryan Spaeder's on Twitter at the Ace of Spaeder. That's Spaeder. Ryan, I'm a Braves fan, so we'll butt heads here a little bit coming up towards the trade deadline. Yeah, and trying to build our teams for a postseason. What about from the Mets' perspective? Obviously, they're going to unload guys, but the only two players right on the roster that would bring back any sort of valuable return would be Syndergaard and DeGrom. Do you see either one of those guys getting moved from New York?
Honestly, I really don't at this point. I guess if you're going to move one, it's possibly DeGrom because people don't realize that he's actually 30 years old. And he just hasn't been around quite as long as some of these other guys. And, he had his problems with the injuries and whatnot. But he's been elite for them. I think he could bring them back something nicely. Syndergaard, I don't think you sell low on Syndergaard. And it's not that, he's been awful or anything of late. It's just he's, very prone to the injury. They're probably going to end up doing like a small-time move where you see like an Asdrubal Cabrera go, or maybe even Devin Mesoraco goes after just playing, a handful of games with them. But I don't think they're going to do anything catastrophic to that team. It's really odd because I do some radio back in Philly, and everybody's ready to go and fire what's his name, Gabe Kapler after the first 15 games or so, and here Mickey Callaway was smelling like roses after his first handful of games with the Mets, where I think they were like 11-1, or it started out like 20-10 or something like that, and then absolutely just it's been a horrible since for the Mets, and the Phillies quite the opposite. So I don't think any major moves coming in from the New York Mets front office.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the other thing the Yankees and Yankee fans would love if somehow they could get their hands on Jacob deGrom, but you don't forecast that at the trading deadline.
No, I don't think so, but that would be something. It just jumps cities.
Hey, Ryan, I'm trying to wrap my head around this new age of baseball in which the home run, look, the home run's always been king, I get it, but it is just so plentiful now that it is almost home run or bust for a lot of these guys. We didn't see it succeed last year necessarily with the Yankees. This is before, of course, they had Giancarlo Stanton or guys like Torres and Andujar already in the teens when they ran up against the pitching of the Astros. Once you get to the postseason, does the home run become something that you simply can't rely on the way teams are in the regular season?
Yeah, I think in a way it does, because when you're in the postseason, you've got teams that are willing to extend their pitchers that they normally wouldn't. You're looking at really a 4-man rotation versus the 5-man that we see during the regular season. So you're going up against the elite of the elite. You got Andrew Miller going 3 innings, starting in the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning, and you just can't really hit an Andrew Miller. What is it? His slider or his fastball, like you could maybe a Clevenger,
right?
4th, 5th inning, 92-mile-an-hour heater. And, that's nothing against him. He's having a great season. But I think the fact that you're just going up against the elite of the elite in the postseason, it's something where small ball kind of has to come more into play, vice just relying on that long ball.
We're pretty close to Boston, almost equidistant between, Boston and New York City, really 2+ hours either way. So we got a lot of Red Sox listeners in the area too, Ryan, and I'm curious on your thoughts of this MVP race in the American League. Obviously, Mike Trout, he may be having the best season of his career, and I know baseball people hate the fact that he continues to play for a team that just doesn't reach the postseason in Anaheim. But JD Martinez, for me and my money, would be the first half MVP. He's certainly the best free agent signing of the offseason. Taking into account the numbers and what those two guys mean to their team, who would you give MVP to at this point?
Truthfully, all of the sabermetrics and whatnot support Mike Trout, but I just think what JD Martinez has done for the Red Sox and helping them get into the position that they're in, you can't take it away from the guy. I agree with you. He's got to get the MVP award. I mean, as you guys know, a little less well-spoken and more into the numbers, but Martinez, over his last 116 games, we're just talking standard old school numbers. He's got 116 RBI over his last 116 games. He's batting 344, 402, 729. If you look at his numbers over his last 162 games versus the last 3 Triple Crown winners, Miguel Cabrera in 2012, Carl Yastrzemski in 1967, and Frank Robinson in 1966, they're superb in comparison. And he's actually got 60 home runs over his last 162 games. And I just think that this is a trend that we're going to see continue for him this year. I think the ballpark's perfect for him. And he's, in my opinion, probably the first half MVP. But maybe I'm like some of the writers, and maybe I'm just jaded to how great Mike Trout is and has become. And, you really can't hold the guy's elite status against him. And I think, sometimes we kind of do that.
Ryan, always a pleasure. Thanks for a few minutes here on Big Board Sports. Continued great success to you and the best baseball podcast.
And thanks, you for your service, man.
And thanks for your service as well.
Thanks, Ryan.
100%, Ryan. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. Ryan Spaeder, active duty U.S. Marine, Penn State alum, and then very knowledgeable best baseball podcast. Also contributes to the Sporting News, author of the incredible baseball stats, coolest, strangest stats and facts in baseball history. And I don't think he feels like Jacob deGrom is going to end up in the pinstripes.